Hi all. Today we start discussing chapter 5, 5.2 prime factorization of ideals. Before that, we need to discuss the algebra of ideals. Suppose we have a ring with unity, commutative ring with unity, and I1, I2 are two ideals of R. Then you can define three sets I1 plus I2. This consists of all elements A plus B such that A belongs to I1 and B belongs to I2, and I1 intersection I2. Of course, this is set of all x belongs to R such that x belongs to I1 and x belongs to I2. So this is the intersection of two ideals, and we define I1 times I2, I1 into I2. So this consists of all partial sums of the form I equal to 1 to n AI Bi, such that AI comes from I1 and Bi from I2, and n is a natural number. And this set I1 I2 consists of this partial sums or this sums. Okay, some finite sums, not partial sum, finite sums of this form. Okay, so you can easily prove that this is an ideal again. I1 plus I2 is an ideal, and I1 intersection I2 is an ideal, and I1 into I2 is an ideal. So these are called sum of ideals, intersection of ideals, product of ideals. Okay. So in this book we represent uh, ideal as small letter A. This is Gothic O, Gothic letter O. I would write this A as A bar. This is the notation for ideal. Okay. Or B, C. So okay. In textbook they are using Gothic letter O. Okay, Gothic O, B, C, and small letter. Then if A and B are two ideals, we can say that A into B as this set, set of all summation AI BIs. Okay, this is what we call product of ideals. If you write X is an element of R such that X equal to AB and we are elements of R. These are elements, not ideals. For ideal, we write this A bar and B bar. If this is the case, what is ideal generated by X? So that is nothing but ideal generated by AB first. But this is same as ideal generated by A into ideal generated by B in this definition. Okay, that means if you have uh, if you have this ideal generated by X, then we can easily prove this one. Okay? The first implication is very simple. When we choose an arbitrary element Y from ideal generated by X, then Y is a multiple of X. Okay, so you can write it as Rx for some R belongs to R. Okay, then our assumption is X is equal to AB, so Y is equal to Rx, that is equal to RAB. Okay, so that is equal to R times A into 1 times B. So this can be written as this is an element of ideal generated by A. Ideal generated by A is multiples of A. So this element is an element of ideal generated by A, and this is an element of ideal generated by B. So we can say that Y is an element of this product. Consequently, ideal generated by X is a subset of this product. Okay. Conversely, if you assume X equal to AB and A into AB is equal to this A into B, then you uh, write it as an arbitrary element. Y belongs to this product. Okay. So this Y can be written as sum of the form I equal to 1 to n RIA QIB. because an arbitrary element of this ideal is multiple of A. So RIA, this is instead of AI, and BI is an arbitrary element of this ideal, so that is a multiple of B, so that is QI times B. Okay, this is the general form of an element in this product with this definition. So you can write it as summation I equal to 1 to n. This can be written as RIQI AB, and this AB is X. So this is equal to summation I equal to 1 to n some I write this RIQI as some SI times X. So these are elements of ideal generated by X, and hence its sum. So this is an element of ideal generated by X. So we can write ideal generated by X is equal to ideal generated by A into ideal generated by B. Okay? And this implication is trivial. Whenever we write ideal generated by AB is same as ideal generated by A into ideal generated by B. One implication is very simple. This contains AB, because this contains A and this contains B, so we can write this contains AB. So ideal generated by AB is contained in this product. Okay. For the reverse implication, if we consider an arbitrary element of this product, then this arbitrary element of this product is always a multiple of AB because of this. Okay, therefore we can say that this is an element of ideal generated by AB. So arbitrary element of this is an element of ideal generated by AB. So that is very simple implication. So ideal generated by AB is equal to ideal generated by A into ideal generated by B. So now once you write X equal to AB, you can get this X is nothing but product of these two ideals whenever we define product of two ideals in this manner. Okay. Now this is the symbol Gothic letter to denote an ideal in R, and this is the ring of integers. This is a Gothic letter O. This is used to denote ring of integers, algebraic integers. Okay. Now we are interested on two types of ideals, that is maximal ideal and prime ideal. We know that what is a maximal ideal. A maximal ideal is a proper ideal with the property that there is no ideal in between A and R. Okay, that means whenever you have an ideal in between A and R, we can say that this B is equal to A or B is same as R. Then we can say that this A is maximal. That means there is no ideal which properly contains A and properly contained in R is not possible. Okay, so that therefore this A is maximal. This is the definition for maximal ideal. You might have seen this definition in your abstract algebra course in second semester. Now this is a prime ideal. Next is prime ideal. Prime ideal is a proper ideal as well, with the property that whenever BC, B and C are ideals, these are Gothic letters B and C. If this BC is contained in A, implies either B is contained in A or C is contained in A. So this is the definition for prime ideal. But the definition of a prime ideal in abstract algebra course is A is prime. A is said to be prime ideal. If AB belongs to, for XY, I'll take XY here. XY, this is the definition of prime ideal in terms of elements. XY belongs to A implies either X belongs to A or Y belongs to A. This is the definition of prime ideal in your abstract algebra classes in terms of X and Y. But this is same as the definition that in our textbook, BC contained in A implies B contained in A or C contained in A. Both are same. C contained in A. So this is our statement 1, definition 1 and definition 2. This is the definition what we have used in our textbook, and this is the definition you might have seen in your abstract algebra classes. You can think that or at least you need to remember that there is a definition other than this. But these two definitions are same. You can easily prove that 1 implies 2 and 2 implies 1. For 1 implies 2, we need to assume if A is a prime ideal, this holds. We need to prove that A satisfies this condition. Yeah. That means we assume 1 and A is a prime ideal with respect to 1. You need to prove that whenever BC contained in A implies either B contained in A or C contained in A. Okay, so how do you prove this? We assume that BC contained in A. If this does not hold, we can say that this holds. Okay? So when you assume B not contained in A, that means there exists a B belongs to B, but that B is not an element of A. Okay, now we will prove that C is contained in A. For that, we choose an arbitrary element of C implies BC belongs to A, because of our assumption BC is contained in A. So for any C, we can say that B is an element of B and C is an element of C. Then BC is an element of ideal BC. Consequently, that is an element of A because of this assumption. So this implies, if you use the definition of statement 1, we can say that either B belongs to A or C belongs to A. This is the definition 1. Okay. Since A is prime ideal. But we know that B belongs to A is not possible because our selection of B is not an element of A. So this implies C belongs to A. Okay. That means every element of C is an element of A. Then ideal C is contained in ideal A. So whenever this holds, B not a subset of A, we can get C is a subset of A. That means whenever BC contained in A implies one of them is contained in A. Okay, this is the first part. 1 implies 2. Now we have 2 implies 1. What is 2 implies 1? When you assume A is a prime ideal with respect to 2. Okay. Then you need to prove that for any xy belongs to A, x belongs to A or y belongs to A. So we start with xy belongs to A. Okay. Now you can write ideal generated by xy is contained in A. But we know that ideal generated by xy is ideal generated by x into ideal generated by y. That is contained in A. Our assumption is A is prime ideal with respect to the second definition. So these are two ideals, say B and C. So it is contained in A implies ideal generated by x is contained in A or ideal generated by y is contained in the ideal A. Okay, this implies if this holds, we can say that x is an element of this. So x belongs to A or y belongs to A. Okay? This defines the first definition. So we can say that 2 implies 1 and 1 implies 2 are true. That means we can use any of these definitions. But in our textbook, we are using the second definition as the definition of prime ideals. Now, this is the definition right now. And if these ideals are principal ideals and generated by single element, say A is generated by element A and B is generated by element B, C is generated by C. Then we use proposition 4.4a. In that proposition, we have proved that x divides y if and only if ideal generated by y contained in ideal generated by x. So when you translate this to this definition, this implication, this statement by replacing B by ideal generated by B and C by ideal generated by C and contained in what is this? A is ideal generated by A here implies this is B is contained in A or this is C contained in A. Okay, now use this equivalency. Whenever x divides y, then we have ideal generated by y is contained in ideal generated by x. Then you can write this statement as this ideal is contained in A. Okay, this is nothing but the ideal BC. Okay, so this can be translated to A divides BC implies A divides B or A divides C. So when you translate this statement to this one, you can say that this is the statement analogous to the definition of a prime element. Okay, prime element A divides BC implies either A divides B or A divides C. So if you replace all the ideals by principal ideals, you can translate this as the definition analogous to the definition of prime number. One remark of this definition is, if we consider an integral domain R, then we can say that there is no zero divisors there. So we can consider singleton set 0 as a prime ideal, because singleton set 0 is a trivial ideal. So this satisfies the definition of prime ideal because there is no zero divisors here, okay, since it is an integral domain. So this ideal contains only one element, so you can never get AB belongs to this by choosing two non-zero elements. Okay, so this is non-zero and this is non-zero. Okay, that means we can consider any integral domain. In any integral domain, zero ideal is always a prime ideal. Okay, and we'll prove in exercise 5 ideal generated by P is prime if and only if P is a prime element. Okay, that is using the transaction we have just discussed. Now the contrast is, when you consider ideals, you can consider this ideal as a prime ideal, but when you consider elements, we never consider 0 as a prime element. Okay, so only the collection of ideals we have 0 as prime ideal, but when you consider element, 0 will never be considered as a prime element. Okay, that is a contrast here. So that is a convention. That is no contrast. This is the convention that to consider this ideal is a prime ideal and this is not the prime element. Now we have a famous theorem, theorem 5.1. You have discussed this theorem in your abstract algebra course, that R be a ring and A an ideal of R. This A is an ideal. Then A is maximal if and only if R by A is field. A is prime if and only if R by A is in integral domain. The only difference here is we are considering commutative ring with unity, even though it is not mentioned here. Because in this chapter, in this book, always we are considering commutative ring with commutative ring with unity. Now we will prove that whenever R by A is field, then A is maximal. Okay. For that, we use a theorem that we have discussed in your degree classes. If you have a homomorphism phi from two rings R and R prime, we can say that if A is any ideal of R, then phi of A. What is phi of A? Set of all phi of A such that A belongs to the ideal A. This is the images of the elements of A. So whenever A is an ideal, then this is an ideal of R prime. Okay. Similarly, you can get another result. Whenever B is an ideal of R prime, then we can get phi inverse of B. What is phi inverse of B? This is set of all inverse images of. Okay, set of all A belongs to R such that phi of A belongs to B. This is the set of all inverse images of B is an ideal of R. This is the two results to prove that the first statement of the lemma 5.1. Now you consider a homomorphism, say canonical homomorphism, that is from R to its quotient ring R by A using the ideal A. So we know that this R by A is always a ring with the identity element 0 as, what is 0 here? A plus 0, that is same as A. Using this homomorphism, what is the mapping of this homomorphism? Phi of A plus X equal to, phi of X equal to phi of any X belongs to R equal to A plus X. So X is sent to corresponding the right coset of A with respect to X. So using this, you can easily prove A is maximal. A is maximal if R by A is a field. So in order to prove A is maximal, we start with an ideal of the form B in between these A and R. We need to prove that this B is equal to A or B is equal to R. So whenever we have this, implies phi of B is an ideal of R prime. What is phi of B? Phi of B means set of all images of elements of B. Clear? So this phi of B is always an ideal of R prime. But we know that R prime is a field. Here R prime is R by A. So I write it as R by A. Our assumption is R by A is a field. So the only possible ideals of R by A is phi of B is an ideal. That is always A or phi of B is R by A itself. Okay, this is the only possible ideals of a field R by A. Okay, so if you assume this is a field, you can get these two possibilities. Phi of B is equal to A means every element of B is mapped to A. Clear? So we know that an element is mapped to its corresponding right coset of A. So every element is mapped to A means the coset corresponding to every element of B is A itself. That shows that every element of B is an element of A. So along with this, A is always a subset of B, and from this you can say that every element of B is an element of A. So this implies B is equal to A. The other way, if this is the case, we can say that every element of B or images of every element of B is R by A. Okay, that means this B is equal to R. Clear? Otherwise, if B is not equal to R, you can get an element B is always a subset of R. Whenever this B not equal to R means B is a proper subset of R. B is a proper subset of R means there exists B or there exists some element Y belongs to R, Y not an element of B. Okay, then this Y is mapped to A plus Y. Okay, this is not an element of phi of B because this Y is not an element of this. So this cannot be equal to R by A because this is an element of R by A. So whenever B not equal to R, you can get an element A plus Y such that A plus Y does not belong to this phi of B. Then phi of B never be R by A. So this shows that B is equal to R. That means whenever R by A is a field, then we can say that this A is a maximal ideal because there is no ideals properly contains A and properly contained in R. Conversely, assume that A is maximal. A is maximal. Then we need to prove that R by A is a field. We know that R by A is always a commutative ring with unity because R is a commutative with unity. Then every quotient ring is a commutative with unity. Now we need to prove that R by A is a field. In order to prove this R by A is a field, we need to prove that R by A has only two ideals, say trivial ideal and the whole ring itself. Okay. Then this implies that R by A is a field because whenever an arbitrary commutative ring with unity has only two ideals, say 0 and R, we can choose any non-zero element x not equal to 0, then consider ideal generated by x. This is always an ideal of R. since this is X is non-zero element, we can say that this never be a zero ideal. So this will be R. R is a computer with unity, means R contains 1. Then 1 is an element of ideal generated by X. Then 1 is equal to some X into some Y. Okay. Then this shows that every non-zero element has an inverse. Therefore, this R is a commutative with unity, possessing inverses for every non-zero element of R. So this shows that R is a field. So once you prove that this R by A has only two ideals, we can say that R by A is a field. Okay, this is the idea here, to prove R by A is a field. For that, we consider an ideal, an arbitrary ideal B of, this is an ideal of R by A. B contained in R by A is an ideal. Then consider the canonical homomorphism phi inverse of B. Okay, this is always a subset of R, and this contains A, because we know that if we choose an element A from A, we can say that what is phi of A? Phi of A is equal to ideal A plus A. Clear? So this implies this is equal to A itself, because A is an element of this. This coset will be A itself. This is actually 0 in R by A. Okay, and this B is an ideal of. We know that this B is an ideal of R by A. Hence, this B is an additive subgroup. Additive subgroup contains the identity element. So we can say that phi of A is always an element of B. Consequently, this A is an element of phi inverse of B. So this shows that every element of A is an element of phi inverse of B. That means A is contained in this. Clearly, this phi inverse B is always contained in R. But we know that A is a maximal ideal. That's our assumption. So A is maximal ideal means we have only two possibilities. That implies A should be equal to phi inverse of B, or you can write A equal to phi inverse B equal to, or phi inverse of B equal to R. This is the only possibilities. Whenever A equal to phi inverse of B means this B is equal to singleton set 0 or A. Otherwise, we have this B is equal to R by A, if phi inverse of B is equal to R. Okay, this shows that when we choose an ideal from R by A, it has only two possibilities, B equal to A, or this A means 0 element, or B is equal to R by A. This shows that it contains only two ideals. R by A contains only two ideals, and it is a commutator with unity, hence it is a field. So this proves lemma, the first statement of lemma 5.1. Now we can prove the second statement. A is prime ideal if and only if R by A is a domain. First we assume A is a prime ideal. Now we need to prove that R by A is a integral domain. Not to prove that it is an integral domain, we show that R by A has no zero divisors, because it is a commutative ring with unity. Now we choose two elements, X and Y belongs to R, such that A plus X into A plus Y equal to 0. That means we assume that product of two elements of R by A, that means two cosets, say A plus X and A plus Y equal to 0. We will show that either A plus X equal to 0 or A plus Y equal to 0. But 0 here is A itself. A plus 0 or A, both are same, because we are considering R by A. So we need to prove that A plus X equal to A or A plus Y equal to A. This is the 0 here. For that, this product is nothing but A plus XY. This is the product of cosets. So A plus XY is equal to A implies XY is an element of A. Okay, that is the statement. XY is an element of A, but this was that ideal generated by X, symbolize ideal generated by XY, that is ideal generated by X into ideal generated by Y, is contained in A. But our assumption is A is a prime ideal. So one of them contained in A. Ideal generated by X is contained in A, or ideal generated by Y is contained in A. If this happens, we can say that x is an element of A. Consequently, this A plus x is the same as A, that is 0. If this happens, we can say that y is an element of A. That means A plus y is same as A itself, then that is 0, then A plus y is equal to 0. Okay, so this shows that there is no 0 devices there. That means R by A is an integral domain. Conversely, assume that R by A is an integral domain. Hence, since it is an integral domain, we can say that it contains at least two elements, 0 and 1. So cardinality never be 1. That is always greater than 1. So we can say that A is not equal to R. Whenever A is equal to R, then R by A is same as R by R. Okay, that is single 0. This was that it contains only one element. So, but we have two elements, at least two elements here. This cardinality is always greater than 1. So, this A equal to R is not possible. That means A not equal to R. A is a proper ideal. Now we have to prove that whenever BC contained in A, then either B or C is contained in A. So, BC contained in A means we need to prove that either B contained in A or C contained in A. If it is not possible, then we can get B is not contained in A as well as the ideal C is not contained in A. If this happens, we can get two elements. B belongs to B, ideal B, and C belongs to ideal C, such that B is not an element of A and C is not an element of A. If this happens, we can say that this B contains an element which is not in A. C contains an element which is not in A. So, but we know that BC is always an element of A because BC is a subset of A. So, element BC is an element of A. So, this implies this A plus BC is equal to A itself. Clear? So, this shows that A plus B into A plus C equal to 0. Okay. A plus BC means A plus B into A plus C. Right side is A, that is the 0 of R by A. That means, but this never be 0 because B is not an element of A. So, this never gives A itself. So, this is not equal to 0. Similarly, this is not equal to 0. That means R by A contains 0 devices. This is a contradiction because our assumption is R by A is an integral domain. So, this shows that B not contained in A and C not contained in, this is C not contained in A is not possible. That means one of them is always contained in A. This shows that this A is a prime ideal. So, A is a prime ideal if and only if this R by A is an integral domain. This is the proof of statement 2 of lemma 5.1. Now we have a very obvious corollary for this. For the corollary, we assume we need to remember the statement that every field is a if consider fields, then that is a integral domain. Every field is an integral domain. And so we start with the maximal ideal, say M is maximal, implies R by M is a field, implies R by M is a integral domain, is an integral domain because of the result field is every field is an integral domain. If this is an integral domain, then M is a prime ideal. So we can say that every maximal ideal is prime ideal. Okay. Next class we can see theorem 5.3.